How did that episode manage to have so much crammed into it but still be quite shit at the same time? Whose idea was it to put the chairs like that for the heart rate challenge? Somebody needs to have a word with them. Love Island UK episode 19, and it was time for the heart rate challenge. I was like, yes, 2 heart rate challenges in 12 hours. Lucky me, because I just watched it on Love Island USA this morning. Obviously the producers are trying to mix it up a bit, because on the USA one it was couples, and I wasn't too sure about it. And then in this one, they've changed the chairs. No, I don't like it. But anyway, before we get into that, Meg was speaking to Shakira about Harrison and Helena, and she was basically saying, oh, they're just exploring, like, if he likes she'll come back to her, whatever. She's always giving advice to people and saying, oh, let people explore, they're not doing anything wrong. But whenever Dijon looks at somebody, she loses her fucking shit. Now, if she wants to lose her shit over Dijon, that's fine. If she wants to advise other people not to freak out over things like that, then she can't do both. Shakira's still upset about Snog Marry Pie because Harry chose to snog Helena. And to me, the worst part of it isn't the fact that he snogged her, it's the fact that he says, oh, we've got sexual chemistry and we've got unfinished business, when he already said that he had unfinished business with Shakira. It just made it 10 times worse. Now, I genuinely don't think that he believed he did anything wrong by kissing Helena, because when he spoke to the boys, he's like, oh, I thought that marrying Shakira would be better, but nobody wants to see their partner kiss somebody else. Meg isn't happy with Dijon for a change, and when Tony was kissing him during the challenge, she says you were like touching her bum, you had your hands round her, and he says, oh, I didn't realise, like, I'll know better for next time. That's not the first time he said that. So they got a text and I was like, heart rate challenge, heart rate challenge. No, it was a recoupling. Is it normal for them to have a recoupling and a heart rate challenge in the same episode? I think that the recoupling was just kind of obvious and fast, and that's why they managed to put them both in. Most of them were quite obvious, but some of them I found absolutely baffling. Just before they got the text, I seen Helena and Ben chatting, and that's the first I've even seen them speak. And I was like, oh, this is a bit random. You didn't even really see a conversation, but they got the text, and it was time for the boys to choose the girls. Tommy picked Emily, Giorgio picked Yasmin, Harry picked Shakira, Dijon picked Meg. Right, so this is where it got confusing, because they normally leave the best to last, right? So I would have thought that they would have put Harrison last because he was going to choose between Helena and Tony, and all hell would have broke loose. But they put Ben first, and Ben chose Helena. And I'm like, we've literally only just seen them talk there for like 10 seconds. It's the first they've had a conversation. Where the fuck did this come from? Then Harrison picked Tony and Connor picked Halima. I was very confused. Once they were coupled up, Helena and Harrison were speaking, and he says, oh, I was ready to be coupled up with you, I just want to sleep in a bed with you, blah blah blah. And I was watching this with my niece and I says, aye, Betchy doesn't say that when Tony's talking to him. Literally 2 seconds later we see Tony talking to him, and she says, oh, I'm not happy, like, would you have picked her if you'd have had the choice? And he says, oh, I wasn't sure, honestly, I was 50-50. And my niece just looked at me and says, that's not what he just said. And I was like, exactly. I says to her, I don't understand why they don't just shout him over and ask him to have this conversation with the two of them. But later the two of them are speaking, and Tony does shout him over, and she's like, where's your head at? And he just says, I want to get to know both of yous, and they're like laughing about it. That conversation could have been so much better. Helena could have said, oh, you says that you were ready to share a bed with me, and Tony would have lost her shit. But Helena obviously doesn't want to start any fights. But I would just want him to be honest. I'd be like, just be honest and tell her how you really feel. You're telling me that you want to share a bed with me, you're not telling me you're 50-50. It's so obvious that he likes Helena better, so why can't he just be honest about it? Right, so finally it's time for the heart rate challenge. I'm like, heart rate challenge, heart rate challenge. And I see the chairs. And I thought, why do they have them? Is that so that it can be more like a lap dancing thing? In my mind, I'm thinking, it's possibly that when they usually do the heart rate challenge, they jump about. Like, the guys all jump about and they're like, oh my god, and like hit each other and all that. And that gets their heart rate up more. Another reason could be that pretty much every year, the guys pick up the girls and start like bouncing them, and somebody ends up hitting their head off the camera. So it could be a health and safety thing. It also could be a health and safety thing because the fire's there. I don't know, but I really don't like this chair setup. As somebody who would love to go on reality TV, if Love Island was out when I was young and skinny, I would have been all over this challenge. But now, the way I am and because I'm older and stuff, I think, oh my god, this would literally be my worst nightmare. But they go out there, like, even if they say that they're embarrassed or whatever, they do give it their all. Now, I didn't really like many of the outfits. They used to do outfits and they were more sparkly crystals and all that, and I'm into it. I really liked Alima's underwear. It was like purple lacy. It looked so good on her. Meg was the only one wearing sparkles. I was quite disappointed, but at least somebody was sparkling. Helena was going all out in Harrison, and she whispered in Harry's ear, "I can't wait to fuck you," and I was like, I mean, whatever you're into. And it's not that the girls didn't come out and do a great job and look amazing or whatever. I was just really annoyed at the chairs. It wasn't working for me. Shakira's outfit was nice as well, actually. It was like a wee all-in-one dress situation, and it looked nice on her because of her skin tone. She took Harry out onto the floor. She's doing her stuff on the floor. The guys are like, oh my god, eyes falling out their heads. When it was the boys' turn and Ben came out, they're like, yeah, and I just thought, no, make it stop. But they all seem to be having fun, and that's all that matters. And you know what? We only do see short clips, but him and Yasmin, they obviously don't go on, but they still went out and they still gave it their all on each other, so it was just a bit of fun. It was time for the results, and I thought because of the chair situation, maybe the results would be more accurate because they're not jumping about as much. And you know how, like, usually at the fire pit, the guys will, like, grab the lasses' heads and, like, thrust right in their faces, and the lasses have got their asses right in their faces and all that. So I thought, right, this time it might be more accurate, which makes it worse. Especially for Harry, because his heart rate was risen the most by Helena, and he made her heart rate rise the most as well. So Shakira's sitting there fucking raging, and Shakira really went all out on Harry, so I don't know. But I've said this in many other videos in the past, when you're coupled up with somebody and somebody else pulls you onto the floor and does whatever it is they're doing to you in front of everybody, that person is thinking, oh shit, they're watching this and they're panicking, and he's probably thinking, oh my god, Shakira's got to be fucking raging, and that's got to make his heart rate go faster. And I'm not trying to stick up for anybody here, but it's just facts. Harrison's heart was raised the most by Tony, and actually I think a few of the boys' hearts was raised by Tony, and Tommy says, oh, it's because she was out first and we didn't know what we were expecting. Shakira's heart was raised the most by Harrison, so at least she can say to Harry, oh well, your heart might have been raised by her, but my heart was raised by him, so fuck you. Let me know what you thought of tonight's episode. That was the most bizarre recoupling I think I've ever seen. And also, what did you think of the chairs? Take it back to the fire pit. But I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye!